When I bought my first decent camera, I didn't expect it to ruin my life. It was an old Nikon D 3300, secondhand but clean, a birthday gift to myself after a raise at work. I'd always liked the idea of capturing little moments, sunsets, coffee shop corners, candid shots of friends who hated posing. At first, everything was normal. I'd go out on weekends, snap a few pictures, come home, edit, post them online. My Instagram grew modestly, just friends, coworkers, some hobbyist photographers who stumbled onto my feed. The first strange photo showed up about a month after I got the camera. I was going through my SD card, deleting test shots and blurry images. That's when I saw it, a picture of me standing in front of a gas station sign, smiling. Except I didn't remember it. I zoomed in on the details, my jacket, my hair. It was definitely me, even down to the chipped tooth you'd only notice if you looked close. But I'd never been to that gas station. I'd never worn that color hoodie. I checked the metadata, date stamped 3 days prior. At 2:43 a.m., I was home at that time asleep. I shrugged it off at first. Maybe a prank? Maybe someone borrowed my camera. I changed my passwords, asked around, but no one fessed up. Then it happened again. And again. The second photo rattled me more than the first. It appeared a week later. I was sitting in my kitchen, laptop open, dumping files from the SD card. Halfway through, I spotted it. Me again. This time on a train. I don't even take the train. My commute is a 10-minute drive. But there I was, clear as day, staring out the window as the city lights blurred by. My eyes looked empty, hollow. The timestamp said 4:12 a.m. on a Tuesday. I was in bed with a nasty cold that week. I even checked my work emails to be sure. I'd called in sick that day. I started to feel sick all over again. Someone must have been messing with me. But how? I live alone. My door has 3 locks. I don't lend my camera to anyone. And even if someone did sneak in, why take a picture of me pretending to ride a train I never took? I called my friend Lisa. She's into photography too. She knew cameras better than I did. She came over, looked through my files, checked my camera settings, my phone, my cloud storage. It doesn't make sense, she said. These aren't edits, they're real files. It's like your camera is taking them by itself. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Haunted camera? Really? Lisa didn't laugh back. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept my camera on the dining table, lens cap off, pointed at the blank wall. I don't know what I was expecting. Maybe to catch it in the act. Around 2:30 a.m., I dozed off on the couch. When I woke up, the camera was gone. I tore through my tiny apartment, kitchen, bathroom, bedroom closet. Nothing. Then I found it in the hallway closet, propped up on an old shoebox, lens pointed through the cracked door, as if it had been watching me sleep. I grabbed it with shaking hands and flipped through the files. There was a new folder. Inside, dozens of photos. Every single one was of me sleeping. Different angles, different nights, judging by my pajamas and the position of my blanket. Some looked old. Ones I couldn't remember ever taking. In the final photo, I wasn't alone. A figure stood next to the bed, blurry, dark, like a silhouette, half formed from smoke. And I swear, it was holding the camera. I tried to tell myself it was a prank, that someone had broken in, messed with my stuff, but the door was still bolted from the inside. The windows were locked. No sign of forced entry. I called my friend Jonah, a tech-savvy guy who's done freelance security work. He came over the next day to check for hidden cameras, bugs, anything. He scanned every inch of my apartment, ran weird signals through his laptop, even opened up the camera's firmware. Nothing. Except one thing. There's metadata on these files that shouldn't be here, Jonah said, squinting at the screen. Look, timestamps that don't make sense. Some of these photos are tagged with dates from the 1990s, and this one's marked for next month. He pointed at a photo I hadn't dared to open yet. A future date. My birthday. He clicked it. It was a picture of my living room, but I wasn't in it. Instead, it showed the same shadowy figure sitting on my couch, looking straight into the lens. Its head was tilted like it was listening. Dude, Jonah whispered. What is this? I didn't have an answer. After Jonah left, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the floorboards, every hum of the refrigerator made me jump. I unplugged the camera, buried it in a box in my closet. But that night, around 2 a.m., I heard the shutter sound. Faint. Click, click, click. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding. The camera was unplugged. It shouldn't make any noise. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. In the hallway, leading from my bedroom to the living room, fresh Polaroids were scattered on the floor, each one closer to my door like a trail. I picked up the nearest one. It was me, sleeping. Another. Me, sitting up, eyes wide, looking directly at the camera. Except, I hadn't moved until now. I dropped the photos and backed into my room, locking the door. My phone buzzed. One new message. Unknown number. You're almost ready. Ready for what? I didn't know, but I could feel something in the hallway. Waiting. I sat on the floor, my back pressed to the bedroom door, clutching my phone so hard my fingers hurt. I didn't dare look at the photos again. They were still scattered in the hallway like breadcrumbs left by something that wanted me to follow. I kept telling myself it had to be Jonah, or a prank, or anything that made sense. But deep down, I knew this was bigger than him, bigger than any prank. I dozed off sometime before dawn, waking to the sound of my phone vibrating. It was an email alert, no subject line, no sender I recognized, just a single attachment. A photo. Hands trembling, I opened it. It was me, standing in a place I'd never seen before, an overgrown field with a broken fence and a barn in the distance. The worst part was my eyes. They were completely blacked out, as if burned away on the image. I felt sick. This wasn't just photoshopped. There was something real about it, a rawness that made my stomach twist. I called Jonah. No answer. I texted him to come over. He didn't reply. The longer I waited, the more the walls of my apartment felt too close, like they were pressing in, whispering things just beyond hearing. Desperate, I did what I swore I wouldn't do. I went back through the other photos, Polaroids I'd stuffed in a drawer, old ones, random ones. I looked closer, really looked. And it was there. Tiny details I'd missed. In the background of a picture from my birthday party last year, a figure stood just outside the window. In a camping photo from college, a dark shape behind the tent flap. Always half seen, always at the edge. And every time, it looked just like me. I gathered every photo I could find, laid them out on my living room floor like puzzle pieces. There were dozens, maybe 100. Some I didn't even remember taking. My doppelganger was everywhere, and sometimes clear as day, other times just a warped reflection in a window or a TV screen. I didn't know what was real anymore. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch staring at the photos, tracing the outlines of the figure with my fingertip, over and over. Around 3 a.m., I heard footsteps in my hallway. Slow, deliberate. I held my breath. The doorknob to my bedroom twisted once, twice, then silence. I grabbed my phone and snapped a picture through the gap in the door. I wish I hadn't. When I looked at the photo, my breath caught in my throat. On the screen, in the dark hallway, was me, standing there, smiling. Eyes pitch black. And in my own voice from the hallway, I heard it whisper, "You're almost ready." I didn't remember falling asleep, but when I woke up, it was daylight. For a second, I thought maybe it was all a nightmare. The photos, the dark figure, the black eyes. But then, I saw my phone still in my hand, the last picture open. Me, smiling in the hallway. I got up and checked the door. It was unlocked. Nothing seemed disturbed, but I could feel that something, had been there. I had to get out. I threw clothes into a bag, grabbed my laptop and every physical photo I could find, and drove to a cafe on the edge of town. Somewhere public. Somewhere with people. I thought maybe that would help me feel normal again. I spent hours there, scrolling through forums, paranormal threads, doppelganger stories, missing time theories. It was like looking into an abyss of other people's nightmares that all felt like they belonged to me. One post caught my eye. Shadow self, the double that lives in your reflection. It talked about ancient folklore, that your reflection isn't just light bouncing back at you, but a doorway. That if you ever see it move on its own, or If it smiles when you don't, you've let something in. A second you. A version that wants to cross over. I slammed my laptop shut. My reflection. The photos, the black eyes, all of it. I realized then, it didn't just want to watch me, it wanted to become me. I couldn't stay at the cafe forever, but going back to my apartment felt like walking back into a trap. So I called Jonah again. Finally, he picked up. His voice was distant, almost hollow. Hey, man, where have you been? I asked. There was a pause. Then he laughed. But it was wrong. Flat. Empty. I'm here, he said. I've always been here. Aren't you tired of running? The line went dead. I stared at my phone, cold dread filling my chest. Jonah was the only person who believed me, or at least the only person who tried. But now I didn't know if it was him on the other end of the call or something else. I drove aimlessly for hours after that. I found a cheap motel, paid cash. I taped black trash bags over the mirror. I even turned my phone camera toward the wall so it couldn't see me while I slept. But sleep didn't come. I lay there, heart hammering, trying not to hear the soft, muffled voice that seemed to echo from the darkness. Come back home, let me in. Around 2 a.m., there was a knock at the door. 3 soft raps. I didn't move. The knock came again, louder this time. Then, through the thin wood of the door, I heard my own voice. Please, open the door. I'm you. You need me. I pressed my hands to my ears, but the whispering just got louder. My phone buzzed. Another photo. I almost didn't want to look. But when I did, my blood turned to ice. It was me standing right outside the motel room door. Face pale, eyes black, mouth curved in that same impossible smile. The message attached read, Almost ready, let's trade places. I didn't open the door. I couldn't. I shoved a chair under the knob and backed into the farthest corner of the room. My phone buzzed again. Another photo. This time it was from inside the room, but I was alone. Or so I thought. In the background, just barely visible in the reflection of the TV screen, was that same version of me. Standing behind the bed, watching. I dropped the phone like it burned me. My ears rang with static. Or maybe it was my own pulse pounding so hard it drowned everything else out. Think, I told myself, think. There has to be an end to this. But every thread I pulled just led to another knot. The photos, the double, the voice in the hallway. What did it want? Another knock, and this time softer, gentle, like someone testing the lock. I forced myself to look through the peephole. The hallway was empty. When I turned around, the mirror I'd covered with trash bags was exposed again, the tape hanging loose, bags crumpled on the floor. My reflection stood there. It didn't mimic me, it just watched. And then it lifted its hand slowly and beckoned me closer. I almost obeyed. Almost. Instead, I lunged forward and punched the glass. It shattered around my knuckles, splintering my reflection into 100 tiny pieces. The shards glistened in the cheap motel light, each one catching a sliver of my own horrified face. I stared at my bloody fist, at the broken mirror, at the pale imitation of myself scattered across the floor. Then I saw it. In the largest piece, my reflection smiled again. But this time, it moved its mouth. You can't break what's already inside you. That was the last straw. I grabbed my bag, keys, wallet, and ran. Out the door, down the hallway, past the night clerk who looked up with bored eyes that didn't belong to any human I'd ever met. I didn't stop driving until dawn broke, smearing gold across the horizon like a wound trying to close itself. I pulled over at a rest stop, exhausted, half crazed. I splashed water on my face in the bathroom, refusing to look up at the mirror over the sink. But when I finally did, I saw no reflection at all, just an empty sink, an empty room. Then my phone buzzed one more time. A new photo. This time it was a family portrait. My parents, my sister, and me. Except the me in the picture was standing slightly apart, just a hair's breadth off center. Smiling that same rotten smile. And below it, a single message. You don't belong here. But I do. I left the rest stop in a daze, driving on autopilot for hours. I didn't dare check my phone again. The thing felt toxic, like it pulsed with something alive in my pocket. Every mile that passed, I thought maybe I'd leave the thing behind, but the lines on the road all blurred together until I wasn't sure if I was moving forward or in circles. Somewhere near the edge of town, I pulled into a small diner. It was the kind of place that looked unchanged since the 70s. Cracked vinyl booths, faded pictures of dead celebrities on the walls, a smell of burnt coffee and old fryer grease. I sat in the back corner as far from the windows as I could. The waitress, her name tag said Debbie in peeling gold letters, didn't even blink when she saw my bandaged hand or my thousand-yard stare. She just poured my coffee and left the pot on the table. I needed answers, some way to connect the dots. I pulled out the old envelope of my photos, the ones that had started all of this. Most were normal: birthdays, vacations, blurry nights at bars. But sprinkled throughout were the impossible ones. Me in places I'd never been, at times I couldn't remember. One photo stuck out. It was me standing in front of a house, not a place I recognized. A crumbling Victorian thing, paint peeling, windows black. I turned the photo over. For the first time, I noticed there was writing on the back: "Come home." Home? I had never seen that house in my life. The diner's TV burbled in the background, static filled news about a missing person. They flashed a photo, my face. Except the eyes were wrong. The smile was too wide. I shuddered, turning away. I needed to find that house. I asked Debbie if she'd seen it, showing her the photo. She looked at me with tired eyes, then shook her head, but she pointed to a man at the counter. An old guy in coveralls, a trucker's cap perched low. "Ask Red," she said. "He knows every back road around here." So I did. Red smelled like motor oil and stale cigarettes. When I showed him the photo, he frowned. "Yeah, I seen it," he rasped. "Old Sutter Place, out past County Road 19. Ain't nobody been there in years." My skin crawled at that name. Sutter. The same name that had popped up before. In my photos. In the old police reports Derek dug up before he stopped talking to me. "Anything I should know about it?" I asked. Red just chuckled. A dry, humorless sound. "If you're smart, you'll burn that picture and forget the place ever existed." I didn't. Of course I didn't. An hour later, I was driving again, this time down winding country roads that seemed to get narrower the closer I got. Trees pressed in on either side, shadows swallowing the car whole. My GPS was useless. It glitched, the little blue dot spinning wildly, ignoring the actual road. Eventually, I found it. The house looked exactly like the photo, worse somehow, like it had been waiting for me, rotting in place. I stepped out of the car, gravel crunching under my feet. The air smelled like wet leaves and something else. Something sour, metallic. Inside, the front door swung open with a sigh. The wallpaper was stained yellow, curling like skin. Old furniture lay in splinters. The house felt alive, like it was breathing, waiting. I crept through the hallway, photos lining the walls, family portraits, decades old, but every single one had been defaced. Faces scratched out, eyes gouged. Except for one, my face, perfectly intact, pasted over another man's. Upstairs, the floorboards groaned under my weight. I found a study, dusty books scattered everywhere. On the desk, a mirror. But the glass was black, like an oil slick. I leaned in, and for a moment, I didn't see myself. I saw him. The other me, the thing wearing my face. He smiled, then lifted a finger to his lips. Shh. A floorboard creaked behind me. I spun around, nothing. But on the wall, written in dripping black paint, a single word: stay. I stumbled back, knocking over a stack of books. Pages fluttered everywhere, old diaries and records. In the chaos, one thing caught my eye. A photo, newer than the rest. It was me, sitting in that very room smiling. But my eyes in the photo, they were hollow. Black pits. I fled. Down the stairs, out the door, back into the car. I didn't look back. But in the rearview mirror, as I sped away, I caught a glimpse of the house. And in an upstairs window, the other me stood there, waving. I drove until the sun started to come up, that sickly gray dawn that makes you feel like you've been awake for days. My hands were numb on the steering wheel. Every time I blinked, I saw flashes of that other me. The smile in the window, the hollow eyes. When I finally pulled into my apartment complex, I sat in the car for almost an hour, engine off, just staring at my front door. Half of me wanted to just keep driving until I ran out of road, but something pulled me back. I couldn't explain it, like a string tied to my chest, yanking me home. Inside, the place felt different. The air was stale, like no one had been here for months. I knew that wasn't true. I'd left just yesterday. Or had I? Time was slippery now. I dropped my keys on the table and went to the bathroom to splash water on my face. That's when I noticed the Polaroids. Dozens of them, taped to the bathroom mirror. My own face over and over. In each one, my eyes looked dead. Some were torn, like they'd been clawed at. Written in shaky black marker across the bottom of each photo was the same word, stay. I ripped them down, my heart pounding. Who had been in my apartment? I checked the locks, the windows, all sealed. It didn't make sense. In the living room, my laptop was open, even though I hadn't touched it in days. A single audio file sat on the desktop. Listen. I shouldn't have, but I did. At first, all I heard was static. Then a voice. Mine. Whispering things I didn't understand. Then clearer. Come back, come back, come back. In the background, something scraped against wood. A thumping, a low chuckle that made my skin crawl, and then another voice, not mine, layered under it. Deep, broken, like it was underwater. He's not you yet, but he will be. I slammed the laptop shut, bile rising in my throat. Something was wrong with this place, with me. I didn't sleep. Instead, I pulled out all the old photos again, laying them on the kitchen floor like puzzle pieces. There had to be a pattern, but they felt alive. The more I stared, the more they shifted, rearranging themselves. Faces bled into each other. My hands in the photos weren't my hands anymore. They were cracked, stitched, like old leather. My phone buzzed. No caller ID. I answered without thinking. Nothing at first, and just heavy breathing. Then a whisper. Why did you come back? Click. I threw the phone across the room. It shattered against the wall, but it didn't feel like enough. I needed to destroy something bigger. I made a plan. I'd go back to that house, the one in the photo. I'd burn it down if I had to. If that was where all this started, maybe that's where it had to end. Before I left, I grabbed my old Polaroid camera. The same one that had once taken normal photos, happy memories. I didn't trust my phone anymore. On my way out, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. For a moment, I could have sworn my eyes were black, hollow pits, just like the photos. I blinked and they were normal again. The drive felt longer this time, like the roads stretched themselves to keep me trapped inside. Trees closed in, branches scraping against the car. The sky was so dark it felt wrong for daytime. When I got to the house, it looked different. The porch light was on, even though no one should be living there. The door was ajar, swinging slightly in the wind. Inside, I found the study again. But now, it was pristine, like someone had cleaned it up just for me. On the desk, my old photos were laid out in a perfect grid. In the center, a Polaroid camera, not mine, but older, scratched up, with a note attached. Take the picture. My hands trembled as I picked it up. I turned, pointed it at the black mirror on the desk, and pressed the shutter. The photo developed slowly. I felt my heartbeat in my ears. When the image cleared, I nearly dropped it. It was me, standing there, holding the camera. But behind me, blurry and massive, was a shape. Like a man made of shadows, stitched together from scraps. Where its face should have been was my own, grinning wide. In the mirror's reflection, I saw it move. I stumbled back, my shoulder knocking over a stack of dusty boxes. The photo slipped from my fingers, landing face down on the warped wooden floor. I didn't want to pick it up, but I couldn't just leave it there either. As I bent down, a cold breath slid past my ear. A whisper, so close I felt it inside my skull. You can't leave now. I spun around. The room was empty, except for the old mirror on the wall. Its glass was darker than before, rippling like water under moonlight. And deep within that shifting black, I could see something moving. It was me, or the version of me I'd seen in the Polaroids. Hollow eyes, that grin. But now it was closer to the glass, pressing its palms against the inside, as if waiting for the surface to tear open. I backed out of the study and tripped into the hallway. The lights flickered, buzzing overhead. The house felt alive. The creaking floorboards beneath my feet didn't match my steps. It was like something bigger was crawling through the walls, dragging its nails along the wood. I tried the front door. It wouldn't budge. The knob twisted in my hand, but the deadbolt clicked locked on its own. I slammed my shoulder into it. Nothing. Upstairs, I heard footsteps. Slow, heavy, pacing from one room to another. My chest tightened. I didn't want to look, but every cell in my body told me that if I didn't face it, it would come find me anyway. So I climbed the stairs, each step creaking under my weight and echoing in the suffocating silence. At the top, the hallway stretched longer than it should have. Doors lined both sides, but they weren't normal doors. They all had cheap hotel-style peepholes. Each peephole pulsed faintly like an eye dilating in the dark. I held my breath and peered through the first one. Inside, myself, asleep in my own bed. I could see my chest rising and falling. The same blankets I'd left on my apartment floor. The same torn poster above the headboard. I yanked back, heart pounding. I checked the next door, another room, another version of me. This one was staring straight at the peephole, eyes black voids, smile wide enough to split his face. I stumbled away, knocking into the opposite wall. The old wallpaper peeled away where my hand touched it, revealing Polaroids nailed directly to the wood underneath. Hundreds of them. All me. All with that same word scrawled across the bottom. Stay. A crash downstairs snapped me out of it. I ran, not down the hallway, but into the nearest door. The knob turned like it had been waiting. Inside was a child's bedroom. Faded cartoon wallpaper, broken toys scattered across the floor. A tiny bed with moldy sheets. On the bed, another Polaroid camera sat. The air smelled sweet, rotten, like something had died in the walls long ago. On the dresser, a note written in a childish scrawl, "Don't let him out." Before I could move, I felt it, a hand on my shoulder. Cold, damp. I turned around, but the room was empty. In the reflection of the dusty window, I saw him. The stitched version of me, taller now, head cocked at an unnatural angle, teeth too many for one mouth. He spoke without moving his lips. I heard it like a thought burned into my skull. "Come home!" I bolted. Down the hallway, down the stairs. The house seemed to twist around me, doorways leading to dead ends, windows showing places I'd never been. No matter how fast I ran, I ended up back in the study. The mirror waited. Its surface now bulged outward, the glass cracking, veins of shadow seeping out like ink in water. I raised the old Polaroid camera. I don't know why. Maybe I thought I could trap him inside the film, freeze him the way he'd frozen me so many times. My hands shook so hard I almost dropped it. Click! The flash went off, and in that split second, I swear I saw him clearly for the first time. A patchwork thing wearing my skin like a mask, eyes stitched shut, but somehow still seeing everything. The photo slid out. I didn't want to look, but I did. It was blank. Behind me, the mirror cracked wide open. The mirror split like rotten fruit. A jagged line tearing down its center, shadows seeping through the cracks. A cold wind rushed out, carrying whispers that sounded like my voice, but tangled, layered, impossible to follow. I stumbled back. The study walls twisted, the door behind me dissolving into darkness. There was nowhere to run. The house folded in on itself, a living maze that kept dragging me back to this moment. Inside the broken mirror, my stitched reflection crawled forward, half inside, half out. One hand pressed against the glass, nails tapping. The sound echoing like footsteps in an empty hallway. I felt something snap in my mind, a memory, or maybe a warning. The note from the child's room. "Don't let him out." I gripped the Polaroid camera so hard my knuckles went white. One shot left. The only thing I could do was try. The reflection was halfway out now, head and shoulders twisting through the fracture. Its grin widened, stitches popping like threads under pressure. Its voice was everywhere. "Stay, stay, stay." I lifted the camera, click. The flash tore through the dark like a crack of thunder. The mirror convulsed. The creature shrieked soundlessly, frozen in that burst of white light. The photo spat out, warm in my trembling hands. On its glossy surface, an image of the stitched version of me, eyes wide, mouth caught mid-scream, and a faint outline of the room behind him. I watched as the reflection slammed back into the mirror, glass ceiling like water refreezing. The house seemed to exhale. The walls shuddered. The lights flickered. The endless hallway shrank back into place. I backed away. The mirror, now whole, only showed me. Just me, pale, shaking, but alive. I stumbled out into the hallway. The front door stood open as if it had never been locked. Dawn was breaking outside, sunlight spilling across the crooked porch. I didn't look back. I drove for hours, Polaroid clutched in my pocket like a ward, but every gas station, every rest stop, bathroom mirror, I kept checking. And sometimes when I catch my reflection just a little too long, I swear I see it. That stitched grin waiting beneath my skin. I moved. I burned everything from that house. But a week later, a package arrived. No return address. Inside, a single Polaroid, blank. And on the back, in that same childish scrawl, "You're home now."